When the sky cracked open above New Carthage colony, Ethan Hale didn't expect history to fall out of it. He was halfway through repairing a solar intake panel on the roof of the medical station when the emergency sirens wailed. Not the soft, rehearsed drills the colony ran every month. These were real.
Raw. Panicked.
The kind that made every human on the settlement look up and wonder if today was the day the void finally swallowed them. A streak of violet fire tore across the atmosphere and slammed into the valley beyond the city walls. Shockwaves rattled the metal roof under Ethan's boots. Dust and sparks danced through the air. Impact event came the calm voice of station AI. Unknown craft. Unknown life signs detected. Unknown life signs. That phrase made Ethan's heart beat faster than fear ever could. First contact had been a rumor, a dream, a line in diplomatic protocols. Not something that landed in a smoking crater 15 kilometers away. Within minutes, the colony's security convoy roared past. Ethan watched them go. His instincts, equal parts medic and human curiosity, refused to let him stay behind. He grabbed his field kit, locked the clinic, and took his rover. By the time he reached the crash site, the air shimmered with heat. The ship was unlike anything built by human hands, smooth organic curves, metal that pulsed faintly, as if alive. Several alien figures lay motionless around the wreck. Most were already still beyond help, except one. She lay partially shielded by a fallen piece of hull plating. Tall, slender, skin like polished silver blue stone, long dark crest-like hair flowing behind her head. Her breathing was shallow. A glowing wound pulsed in her abdomen, leaking luminous violet fluid. Ethan froze. Alien? Princess? Soldier? Nobody had prepared him for the reality of touching another species bleeding on human soil. His medical instincts won. He knelt beside her. The wound was catastrophic. Her blood, if it was blood, was evaporating into vapor. He scanned her vitals with his universal med unit. The device screamed warnings he'd never seen before. Critical organ collapse. Foreign biochemistry incompatible with Earth-based medicine. She would die in minutes. A faint flicker of motion. Her eyes opened. Bright gold. Intelligent. Terrified. She whispered something in a musical language that meant nothing to him, yet carried desperate pleading all the same. Ethan swallowed. I don't know how to save you. But humans had always survived by doing the impossible. He accessed the MedUnit's xenobiology protocol. Emergency last resort procedure. Biochemical bridge transfusion. Experimental. The theory was simple. Introduce compatible proteins from human blood to stabilize foreign cellular collapse long enough for treatment. No one had ever tested it on a living alien. No one had ever met one before. The MedUnit asked for consent authorization. There was none to give. Ethan made the decision anyway. He connected the injector to his arm, then to hers, and he gave his blood. Pain lanced through his veins as the machine forced a rapid transfer. He felt weak, dizzy, but he didn't stop. The violet glow in her wound slowed. Her breathing steadied. The MedUnit beeped in disbelief. Vital stabilization achieved. Security teams arrived minutes later. They found Ethan slumped beside the alien, both of them alive. When Ethan woke, he was in a hospital bed. A window showed the red sunrise of New Carthage. His head throbbed. Tubes fed fluids into his arm. He turned and froze. The alien woman sat in a chair beside his bed, perfectly still, watching him with glowing golden eyes. You're awake, said a voice. Not out loud. Inside his mind. He jerked upright, heart pounding. Do not fear, the voice said gently. I mean no harm. Doctors rushed in, startled by Ethan's vitals spiking. They calmed him, reassured him, left him to rest. But she remained,
Silent.
patient, observing. Finally, Ethan whispered, "You're talking in my head." "Yes," the voice replied. "Your blood carries your species' electrical resonance. It allowed me to connect." "Who are you?" A faint glow shimmered around her crest. "I am Princess Sarin of the Varelian Accord." Ethan blinked. "Princess." "My escort vessel was attacked," she said. "I would have died. You bound your life to mine with your blood. I owe you a life debt." Ethan tried to laugh, but it came out weak. "You don't owe me anything. I just didn't want you to die." "In my culture," she said, "such an act is sacred. Blood shared is soul-bound." Ethan's stomach dropped. Soul-bound? He suddenly felt it, a faint hum at the base of his skull, like a second heartbeat. A presence. Her presence. Days passed. Human scientists crowded around Sarin like worshippers before a goddess. Diplomats scrambled. Panic spread across the colony networks. Earth's governments argued through comm channels about first contact protocols.
But none of that mattered to Ethan.
Because Sarin would not leave his side. Everywhere he went, medical ward, observation garden, even the cafeteria, she followed. Silent. Regal. Impossible to ignore. When he tried to ask her to give him space, she tilted her head in confusion. "Our lives are linked," she said. "If you perish, I perish. If I suffer, you suffer. I must protect my bond." Ethan stared. "You're saying we're connected?" "Yes," she said simply. "Your blood replaced my failing essence. I now carry part of you, and you carry part of me." He didn't like how true that felt. Sometimes he dreamed in alien colors he'd never seen. Sometimes he felt emotions that weren't his. Calm oceans. Endless starlight. A throne of crystal towers. Sarin's memories. The colony physicians confirmed it. His neural patterns had changed slightly. His immune system carried foreign markers. Biologically, he was still human, but no longer entirely. The media went insane. Some called him a hero. Others called him contaminated. Dangerous. A potential biohazard. The planetary governor demanded Sarin be moved to a secure diplomatic compound. Sarin refused. "I will not abandon my bond," she said. "He saved my life. I will guard his." And when security tried to take her anyway, every light in the compound flickered. Gravity trembled. A warning pulse rolled through the minds of every human nearby, a wordless promise of power barely restrained. No one tried again. Ethan's life became surreal. He couldn't walk down a hallway without guards, scientists, and nervous colonists staring. Children waved. Some adults bowed, unsure if they were greeting him or her. At night, Sarin stood by his door like a sentinel. "Princess," Ethan finally said one evening, "I'm not in danger." "You live among your kind," she replied. "But your kind is afraid. Fear births violence."
He sighed.
"So, what now? You're stuck with me?" "If you wish it," she said. "But know this, my people will come. They will seek me, and they will honor the bond." Ethan sat on the edge of his bed. "What does that mean for me?" Her eyes softened. "It means you will never be alone again." That should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified him. The Varelian fleet arrived 3 weeks later. They emerged from hyperspace like glittering crescent moons. Silent. Majestic. In orbit above New Carthage. The colony held its breath. Sarin stood beside Ethan on the landing platform as the Varelian ambassador descended. Tall figures in flowing luminous armor bowed low before her. Their leader spoke aloud, voice translated by a hovering device. "Princess Sarin, healer of the bond. You live." She inclined her head. "I do." "And the human?" the ambassador asked, studying Ethan with unsettling curiosity. He is Ethan Hale, blood brother of the Varelian throne. The ambassador's eyes widened. Every alien present dropped to one knee. Ethan whispered, "Blood brother of the what?" Sauron leaned close. "My mother rules the Accord. By saving me, you have entered our royal lineage." Ethan almost fainted. Diplomats on both sides argued for hours. Trade agreements, technology sharing, cultural integration. But beneath it all was one unshakable truth. Ethan Hale, repair technician and colony medic, had become a political figure overnight. And none of it had been his choice. That night, Ethan sat outside under alien constellations, his thoughts heavy. Sauron sat beside him. "You are troubled," she said. "I didn't ask for this," Ethan replied. "I just wanted to help someone in need. Now I'm part alien royalty, my brain's wired to yours, and half the galaxy knows my name." Sauron was silent for a long moment. "On my world," she said, "a life debt is the highest honor. You gave without hesitation. That is why your species will be remembered." He smiled faintly. HFY, huh? She blinked. "I do not understand." "Never mind," he said. "Look, is there a way to undo the bond?" Her gaze turned sorrowful.
Yes.
"One of us must die." Ethan immediately shook his head. "Then we're stuck together." Sauron's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. "So it seems." Months later, New Carthage was no longer a quiet frontier colony. It had become the heart of interspecies diplomacy. Humans and Varelians worked side by side. Trade routes opened. Knowledge exchanged. And always, wherever Ethan went, Sauron followed. Sometimes she watched him work. Sometimes she asked about human art, music, laughter. Sometimes they shared silence beneath the stars. The fear faded. The strangeness became normal. One evening, Ethan looked up at her and said, "You know, Princess, you really don't have to guard me every minute." "I know," she replied, "but I wish to." He smiled, shaking his head. "Guess I saved an alien princess, and now she won't leave me alone." Sauron's eyes gleamed with warmth. "That is correct." And somewhere in the vast galaxy, new stories began to spread. Of the stubborn human who gave his blood to save a stranger. And of the alien princess who chose to stay by his side forever. Because sometimes humanity's greatest strength is simply refusing to let someone die alone. A year passed. New Carthage transformed from a lonely human outpost into the first interspecies capital in recorded history. Glass and steel human towers now stood beside flowing crystalline Varelian spires. Markets sold earth-grown wheat beside bioluminescent starfruits. Human children played tag with Varelian younglings whose laughter chimed like bells. And at the center of it all was Ethan Hale. Not a ruler. Not a commander. Just a man who fixed solar panels, healed the sick, and tried very hard not to think about how the fate of two civilizations had somehow gotten tangled around his veins. He still worked at the medical station. Still patched broken equipment. Still drank bitter synth coffee in the mornings. But now, whenever he stepped outside, Varelian guards bowed. Human officials saluted. Pilgrims from distant colonies whispered prayers of gratitude as he passed. He hated it. Sauron found him one evening sitting on the roof of the clinic, legs dangling over the edge, watching twin moons rise. "You flee the crowds again," she observed. "I'm not royalty," Ethan said. "I'm a guy who once tripped over his own toolbox and fell off a ladder. I don't belong on banners." Sauron sat beside him, her long silver-blue fingers resting lightly on the roof. "On my world," she said, "the greatest rulers were never those born to crowns. They were those who saved lives without expecting reward." Ethan snorted softly. Guess I messed up then. You did something rare, she replied. You chose compassion over fear. When my people speak of humanity now, they speak of courage, of stubborn mercy, of the species that refuses to let others die. He glanced at her. And what do humans say about Varelians? They say, she answered, eyes glowing faintly, that the alien princess is very bad at giving personal space. Ethan laughed, genuine and free. The bond between them pulsed gently, no longer frightening, no longer strange, just present, like a second heartbeat, like family. Weeks later, the Varelian queen arrived. She descended from her radiant vessel surrounded by light so bright it hurt human eyes. When she stood before Ethan, the entire colony watched in breathless silence. You are the one who saved my daughter, the queen said. Your blood runs within her. Her life sings with yours. Ethan swallowed. I just did what anyone should. The queen stepped closer, lowering her towering form until they were eye level. Not all species would, she said. Not all hearts choose empathy when confronted with the unknown. She raised a hand. Light gathered, swirling into a small crystal medallion shaped like intertwining stars. Accept this, she said. A symbol of eternal kinship between our peoples. As long as you live, Varelia and humanity will stand as allies. Ethan took the medallion. It was warm,
Alive.
That night, Ethan stood again beneath the stars. Sarin joined him, as she always did. You have changed the course of history, she said softly. Ethan looked out at the glowing city, at ships from two species traveling side by side through the heavens. I didn't change history, he said. I just refused to let someone die. Sarin's expression softened in that uniquely alien way that had become familiar, even comforting. Sometimes, she said, that is the same thing. They stood together in silence. Two beings, two species, one shared heartbeat. And across the galaxy, the story spread of the human who gave his blood for a stranger, of the princess who lived because of it, of the bond that turned fear into friendship. And whenever new worlds heard the tale, the same thought echoed among the stars. Humanity is terrifying, not because they destroy, but because they will save you, even when it changes everything.